Okay, we are live. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Lauren Martin Clemens, and I am the head of marketing at Pipestream. Today, we have another installment of the Beyond the Bot series. In this series, we explore the often overlooked aspects of implementing digital assistants and chatbots. You'll hear from various members of our in-house team of experts as they offer insights to enhancing customer engagement and streamlining operations. As you may know, this week kicks off back to school for many students in the United States, so we thought it would be a good time to head back to school ourselves. Today's webinar is titled Back to CX Basics. We'll take a look at those core principles, how to ensure you're meeting them, and identify areas where AI could boost their impact. Our CX expert and teacher today is none other than Jackie Dow, sales engineer here at Pipestream. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Jackie, for a bit of a presentation, and then we can open up our discussion towards the end. So I encourage audience to send in your questions, and let's get started. And go ahead and share your screen, Jackie.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Okay.
So back to basics. You can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're going back to basics today. Nothing we're going to talk about is completely new and groundbreaking things you've never heard of, but they're incredibly important. The three pillars of customer experience. And so I'm going to go ahead and dive in. So this is also not exhaustive. There are a lot of other strategies that go into excellent customer service, but if I had to choose three, these are the three that I would focus on. And again, nothing groundbreaking or new, but oftentimes the basics, getting the basics right, is actually not easy to achieve as a business. So we're going to talk through that, and we're starting with personalization, how to personalize conversations and make your customers feel heard, intelligent self-service, emphasis on the intelligence, and then omni-channel support. So let's dive into it. Personalization. So personalization to me is a really great way to show your customers that you care. And there definitely is discussion out there. Some people might disagree. And I will acknowledge that there's a line to walk here when you're personalizing conversations, especially or an experience with your customers. We don't want to be creepy, but we do want them to feel heard. And if they're coming back as a repeat customer, you want to retain that information or that experience that they previously had. Um, and that again, it sounds easy, but it starts with clean, accessible data, and that's honestly kind of hard to achieve. Anybody who's been in data knows that no company has perfectly clean data. But it does start. It starts there. It starts with a great CRM, ideally one that's accessible. And when we say accessible, we really mean via API, because that's really how you're going to be able to enable automation. Once you establish that, you have a sort of clean CRM with your customer data in it. That's when you can enable secure automation to pull in that customer information, greet people by name, um, whatever might be relevant to the conversation. It might be their subscription, the last thing that they bought from you, etc. But once you achieve that, the next step is actually pushing information back into the CRM. So historically, when we think about, the last 10 years, even in this industry, we've really relied on humans to not only record keep, but data entry and everything, but to keep those records updated throughout the lifetime of the customer. And the fact is, agents don't like doing that. We've encountered it ourselves, talking to agents. Studies show as well that it just takes up a lot of agents' time to have to constantly update CRM information. but it's super important. And so if you have automation in place, uh, not only can you pull from your CRM and make the customer feel heard and make them feel like you know who they are and you care, but you can keep that profile of theirs updated and make it a living, breathing thing throughout the lifetime of the customer, and that's super powerful. And if you can achieve that with automation, then agents don't have to do that, and it saves agents time. They're happy, they can focus on customers and not data entry, and the data is going to be cleaner because you're not leaving any room for error, and you can really format and make sure everything is clean. And again, all of that might sound straightforward. It's oftentimes easier said than done, but it's worth it. It's worth the effort because, according to Gartner, organizations that do focus on personalized messaging experience a kind of halo effect that can improve their commercial outcomes by about 16%. And the reason for that is really just it's you're building trust with your customer. So, it doesn't mean that in that session they're necessarily going to, make a purchase or something. But what it means is you're building loyalty. And now that you've helped that customer and they feel heard and cared for, they're going to come back. And that's really what you want as a business. At Pipestream, we focus heavily on this whenever we're doing design thinking workshops and really trying to flesh out what kind of automation we want to put in place. Uh, we have your CRM at top of mind. It's one of the first things we ask about. And our architecture is super flexible, so it doesn't have to be a fancy CRM like Salesforce. It could be something homegrown, but I think what's important is that you have a database for us to draw from, so we can create those personalized experiences and make your customers feel heard. So it's super important. The next topic is intelligent self-service. Again, emphasis on the intelligent piece. Uh, and you might be thinking to yourself, of course, Pipestream's going to tell me that we need self service, but it's actually a fact. So Gartner did a study. They surveyed about 1,500 companies, both B2C and B2B, and found that 70% of customers prefer self service. So they would rather self serve than have to talk to a person. And upwards of 80% of customers will at least try to self serve. So it's a fact. It's not an opinion. You as a business need to have some kind of self service these days. It's becoming more of an expectation. Um, Implementing self service is, again, it's easy, right? There's so many options out there, especially now. There's a lot of like gimmicky sort of, oh, set it and forget it. You can slap it on your website and call it a day, but that's not exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about implementing intelligent self-service, which is a bit harder to achieve. It definitely takes a lot more work and collaboration across your business, because it's not necessarily just about having AI. And as a business, you might not want AI. You might not want ChatGPT talking to your customers, and that's fair. That doesn't mean you can't have intelligent self-service. Intelligent self-service is really building automation that aligns with your customer data and your business processes. So, getting those workflows on paper and really outlining, what to do in different scenarios is how you get started with that. And it's a journey, and it takes time to again work across your company with various stakeholders, making sure that you're telling customers the right thing, that you're reacting correctly based on different scenarios. But it's absolutely worth it. It's worth the effort because when done right, it gives your customers a speedy resolution, especially for simple requests that they just don't want to talk to a person for. People don't want to talk to a person for password reset, you know. So it makes them happy. It's a speedy resolution, and it saves agents time as well. Um, it can provide 24/7 support, so you're not reliant on business hours, and most importantly, creates a smooth handoff to live support, and that is super important. We're actually going to talk more about that in a little bit, but yeah, I think it it kind of goes without saying, but self-service, it's a must, and it's something that you should definitely be focusing on as a company in 2024. Um, so the last topic is omni-channel support, and I actually gave a whole webinar on omni-channel strategies. It's a big topic, but the fact is you have to meet your customers where they're at. And you have a lot of options out there. So, you know, each one kind of has their pros and cons. But we don't have to get into the nitty gritty of that. I think what's important is knowing your business, knowing your customers, and understanding where they want to talk to you. But having you know, being present in multiple channels doesn't really make an omni-channel strategy. What makes an omni-channel strategy is thinking more about what are the channels that you as a business want to focus on, and how can you seamlessly bring people to that channel uh, for the best resolution. So, for example, there are certain inquiries that you just simply can't resolve in social. Uh, Again, you want to meet your customers where they're at, but you may have to transfer them to another channel in order to get a real resolution. You know, you absolutely can't enter sensitive data into WhatsApp. Like, please, God, don't put your social security in there. So uh, you know, you have to have that strategy in mind when you're implementing new channels, and you have to think about what are the channels that make sense for the business from a cost perspective, and a resolution perspective, and how can we seamlessly get people to that channel. That's kind of where you have to think. um, so yeah, so once you've kind of thought through that and decided the channels that you wanna focus on, you cannot let your channels become siloed. So Gartner just recently did a survey and found that 62% of customer service channel transitions are quote unquote high effort, and they found that this has a really bad impact on customer service in a way that you might not think too. So if you don't make it easy for customers and to get to live help, they're actually less likely to even try self-help. But if you make it easy, they found that 74% of customers experienced easy transitions to customer service will return next time to self-service. So it's super important, I think. Um, you know, especially when we're talking about the other pillars that we went through with personalization. You know, remembering who they are. It really comes into play here as well because we want to pass that context. So anytime you are transitioning a customer from one channel to another, it's crucial to make sure that you're passing that context, whether you're passing them from voice to chat or chat to voice, or simply handing them off to a live agent. Um, it's super important. And when you do that, they found that customers who experience those seamless transitions will spend 27% less time in those assisted channels, which again is huge cost savings for business. So if you're a business, your agents are spending less time repeating themselves because the customers have already said, "Hey, this is my problem. This is who I am," um, and they're not having to ask those questions again. And the customers are happier because they're spending less time repeating themselves, and they're getting to their resolution faster. So it's an all around win, and those efficiencies are real cost savings that your business can experience. But the thing to keep in mind is you do need to really prescribe and instruct those people when you're making these transitions, and just make it super clear that they're changing channels, and how they can what they can anticipate when you're making that handoff. So simply just making it clear and guiding your customers will again make them more likely to use self-service the next time they reach out. So yeah, that's sort of it in a nutshell. Those are the three pillars that I think every business should be focusing on if they care about excellent customer service.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jackie. And if you want to unshare your screen, we just have some Q&A and discussion now. Um, all right. So first question that's come up, what is a good place to start? If you're kind of getting started, thinking about how to make sure you're hitting all these kind of key pillars, where do we start?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you're a business and you're new to automation and you're new to the whole self-service game, I would say start with the easy, low-hanging fruit. The password resets, the updating your billing information. These sorts of simple requests are things that agents don't want to deal with. They're super repetitive, and because they're repetitive, they're easy to automate. And pretty much everybody has a system that you can tap into via API to do those types of things. So I would say start there and start with the easy stuff and slowly build more complex flows from there.
hmm Okay, awesome. Love that. Okay. And then so when it comes to omni-channel, if you're too heavily reliant, like you had that slide with all the different
Yeah.
channels. So if you're too heavily reliant on, let's say, voice, how do
Mhm.
you spread the presence?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So that's a great question, and I think a lot of businesses find themselves in that position in
Yeah.
particular. Um, there's a lot of creative ways to spread the love, so to speak,
hmm
and a really popular strategy we take at Pipestream is IVR deflection.
hmm
So if you have voice and you have an IVR system, you can create a flow that basically says, skip the line and press 2 for chat support, or, you wanna make that
hmm
transition clear, right, like we talked about,
hmm
and guide your customers so they understand what they're doing, but you basically opt in, and then that IVR can send them a text message that transfers them into the digital channels that you're trying to send people to. So, yeah, that's just one strategy, but there's a lot of different creative ways to kind of deflect people to other channels if that's
Yeah.
your strategy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then, so on the topic of those digital channels, what
Mhm.
are some of the areas where companies kind of get tripped up in making sure that they're, rolling out an omni-channel presence?
Yeah, well, across all the different pillars, I think there are different blockers.
Yeah.
Certainly with personalization, I think businesses get really hung up on data security,
hmm
and they should. You should care a lot about that.
Yes.
Your customers care about it. You should care about it, but it does. It might take some legal disclaimers. You might take some other approaches with authentication to make sure that your customers feel safe and secure giving that data. When it comes to omni-channel strategies, I think the biggest blocker is oftentimes just lack of strategy. To be honest with you, it takes some leadership, and it takes some determination and effort to do that cost benefit analysis and understand, okay, here's where our customers are coming in from. Here's how much it's costing us, and it's not working. We need to divert to other channels. And so I think simply just having that leadership and having that person that's kind of leading strategy, and making sure that you're orchestrating your customer service across all your channels and making sure that they're all sort of coordinating towards that one channel that you want to focus on.
Amazing. Perfect. All right, cool. I think that's the end. That's all the questions that we had for today. So really appreciate your time, Jackie. I hope you had fun. We learned a lot. Thank you for teaching today. And good luck to all those parents out there for first week of school. And we'll see you guys next month for the next Beyond the Bot.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren.
Bye.